In a quaint little town nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake lived a young girl with a heart full of music. Perhaps you could name her Leela. Now, Leela wasn't your ordinary girl. You see, she had a very special connection with her piano. It wasn't just a toy or a piece of furniture. It was a living, breathing entity that responded to her emotions. When she was happy, the piano would burst into joyous melodies. When she was sad, it would play soft, mournful tunes. And when she was angry, its music would be sharp and dissonant, like crashing cymbals and thundering drums. Lila spent hours upon hours at the piano, composing magical music that echoed her inner world. The townspeople, though, they didn't quite understand this bond. They saw the piano as nothing more than an old, dusty instrument in the attic. How they wished it would stop its incessant playing, its constant din that never seemed to end. What they couldn't hear, however, were the secret messages the piano was trying to send. One sunny afternoon, while Lila was playing a particularly lively tune, a strange thing happened. A hidden key, one that had been covered in grime for many years, suddenly started to glow. Mesmerized, Lila reached out and pressed it. At first, nothing happened. Then the room began to shake. The walls started to shimmer, and before Lila knew what was happening, she was falling, iced up, tumbling through a swirling vortex of colors and sounds. When she landed, she found herself in a world that was both familiar and strange. The sky was filled with musical notes that danced and twirled like a grand orchestra. The trees bore fruit that looked like tiny violins and trumpets, and the flowers sang sweet melodies that attracted butterflies with wings like harps. Welcome to the Symphony of the Spheres, a parallel world where music was the very essence of existence. But as Lila soon discovered, this world was in peril. Our dark force was draining the spheres of their harmonious music, plunging them into chaos and discord. As a result, plants withered, animals fell ill, and the people lost their joy. All hope seemed to be lost until Lila arrived. For as the legend foretold, a young musician from another world would come to save them. Lila, though, was just a small-town girl who loved to play the piano. She didn't know any fancy magical spells, or have any grand adventures under her belt. When she heard the plight of the Symphony of the Spheres, her heart filled with determination. She would help them, even if it meant facing scary creatures and solving ancient musical puzzles along the way. First, she had to find a way to traverse this strange new world. Luckily, an old, wise owl who had seen better days took pity on Lila and gave her a magical flute that could navigate the musical landscapes of the spheres. With a grateful nod, Lila set off on her journey. The flute led her through meadows of singing flowers and across babbling brooks that played tunes as old as time. But it was only when she reached the crystal caverns that the true test began. Here, musical notes floated through the air like shimmering butterflies, but they were all out of harmony, creating a cacophony that was painful to hear. To restore balance, Lila had to play a counter melody on her flute, a feat that required all her skill and concentration. As the final notes rang through the cavern, the music flowed back into the spheres, rejuvenating the land and its people. But Lila's adventure was far from over. She still had to confront the mysterious force that had brought this world to the brink of destruction. With the help of some newfound friends, creatures that had been magically transformed by the discord, Lila ventured deeper into the Symphony of the Spheres. They braved roaring waterfalls that tried to drown out her music, and climbed mountains that challenged her every step of the way. Finally, they reached the source of the chaos, a dark, shadowy being that had been feeding on the world's sorrow. With a determined look in her eye, Lila began to play a powerful melody that cut through the darkness like a ray of light. The shadowy being recoiled, and as Lila's music swelled, it faded away, restoring balance to the Symphony of the Spheres once more. And so Lila became a hero, a small-town girl who had saved an entire world with her music. But as the legend also foretold, she had a choice to make. She could stay in the Symphony of the Spheres and be a legendary hero, or return home and be an ordinary girl. Which would she choose?